Hello everybody, and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, we'll be talking about the 2022 congressional election in Kansas's 3rd District and my prediction for it. This is another part of our series about competitive House races, and today I figured we would do Kansas 3. Kansas 3 is another classic example of your suburban left-trending district with a Democratic incumbent, but unlike these other suburban left-trending districts, it's a little redder. Most of the suburban districts, Michigan 3, Washington 8, Oregon 5, Virginia 7, are all at least Biden plus 7 or Biden plus 8 or Biden plus 9. This seat, though, is just Biden plus 4.4. So it is, it was a bit redder in 2020. And originally it was thought of as a pretty easy GOP pickup. I had to just lean Republican for a while. But yeah, so let's just talk about Kansas 3 here. So Kansas 3 is most people don't know this, but Kansas 3 is actually the most left-trending contested seat in the country, and we can talk with this. So in 2016, the presidential race, we'll pull it up right here. Donald Trump got 48.2% of the vote. Hillary Clinton got 42.9% of the vote. So that's a margin of victory for Donald Trump of about 5.3%. So he won it by a likely margin. Now in 2020, as I mentioned, Biden won it by nearly 4.5%. So that is a 9.8% shift to the left over just 4 years. And so if you apply that trend to 2022, 9.8 divided by 2 is what? 4.9? Yeah, it's 4.9. That would be another almost 5 point swing towards the Democratic Party. And that would essentially guarantee Sharice Davids would win re-election. Now, I'm not going to do that because I think there's better analysis you can do. But if you're looking at an only trends-based prediction, Kansas 3 would be very solid for the Democratic Party due to just how left-trending it is, because it has been zooming, absolutely zooming towards the Democratic Party. And, you can show this on a map here. I'll do it right now. This is one of my favorite things with DRA. You can show the shift here. President 2016 to President 2020. Let's look at only Kansas 3. It is just, let's do, here we go. Here, there we go. So only Kansas 3, as you can see, basically every part of Johnson and Wyandotte County, which is obviously the KC essentially area, trended to the left. And then you have a few more rural counties that were a bit more mixed, but they all did move towards Joe Biden in 2020. And again, this seat just trended blue almost everywhere, whereas when you look at these other areas, most of Kansas did trend left, but the rural areas were a lot more mixed. You had some areas up here that trended right, over here as well. And really, Kansas 3, like if you look at this map, independent of district lines, the most left-trending precincts are concentrated in the Kansas City area and a bit in the Wichita area, but really Kansas City because there's metro area has more people. So that's really what matters in Kansas right now, and I think that's just goes to show how much this district has been trending towards the Democrats. Another thing we have to remember about the seat is that it has a Democratic incumbent, Sharice Davids. Again, in the district is shaped differently. It was a bluer edition of the district, but in 2018, Sharice Davids flipped the seat by almost 10%, and then in 2020, she was able to hold on to her seat, as you can see right here. She beat the same person, Amanda Atkins, by 10%, and that was that was despite the fact that 2020 at the House level was 6.5 points redder than 2018, and so the fact that Davids was able to win by the same amount both years just really goes to show how good of an incumbent she is and how much her seats left trends have aided her. So that I think is the best testament to this. Now let's talk what's going on in Kansas recently. So first of all, there will be 2 races at the top of the ticket here, the governor and Senate race. And they could not be more different. And what I mean by that is the governor's or the Senate race, first of all, is going to be super Republican. So Jerry Moran is a really good incumbent. He fits Kansas very well. He gets a lot of crossover support from Democrats. And actually, if you look at the 2016 election in Kansas, Moran did so well that he was able to win. Didn't mean to pull that up, but Moran did so well that he was able to even carry the 3rd district on the same ballot. Trump only won it by 6 by 17. So Moran is a very well liked incumbent. He's going to win by probably 20-25 points this time around. And that's going to help Republicans. Now, the caveat to that is that Laura Kelly, the Democrat, will be running for re-election as well. And she is probably the best politician statewide in Kansas. Not because, she wins by the most, but because I think she's the only statewide Democrat in Kansas. And she's, made a name for herself. And she's been actually quite popular. And that's why she has a chance of winning re-election. Again, I still think she's going to lose, but she has a chance of winning re-election. So let's talk about Laura Kelly. So in 2018, she beat Chris Kobach by 5 points in the governor's race, and she won Kansas 3 by about 13.6%. So again, she did very well here. But it's notable that, when you look at her performance in these other seats, she outran Biden by 20, 30 points in some of these seats, but she only outran Biden by 8 or 9 in Kansas 3, which just goes to show again how even though 2018 was much blurrier than 2020, the seats still didn't shift as much to the left as the country as, or to the right as the country as a whole. And so the fact that Laura Kelly's running for re-election this year is going to help Democrats. And another thing we have to take into account is that Kansas just overwhelmingly rejected an abortion referendum, or a referendum that would have essentially given abortion control back to the Republican legislature, which essentially would have banned it. And so what we saw here was that the abortion referendum actually won every single congressional district. And it's mapped out by Daily Cost Elections, which you should go give them a follow on Twitter. But when you take a look at how well it did, it dominated in Kansas 3. It was 2/3 no, which obviously no was the pro-choice side. In a seat, there was only Biden plus 4. So again, left trends, but also the fact this seat's super pro-choice, and there are likely a lot of Republicans in the seat who crossed over and voted no as well. Kansas 2, obviously 58% no, despite the fact this was a Trump plus 17 district. And then it also won the 2 more rural districts, which is interesting because rural areas tend to be much more Republican, much more pro, or much more anti-choice. And ultimately, again, this is all just an example of how the left trends in Kansas and how social liberalism is gaining in these states. And, banning abortion was never really popular for the GOP. It was always something that was going to hurt them. But who would have expected back in June for it to be potentially hurting them in states like Kansas, which, again, like the fact that an abortion referendum failed in Kansas by 18% is just incredible. Like, I thought it was going to fail probably only by 4 or 5, but it failed by 18%, which is just crazy to me. And another thing we have to remember is that the Democrats been doing pretty well in Kansas as of late. And again, that doesn't mean that they'll be winning the Senate race. And I think Laura Kelly's still going to lose in that governor's race, although it's a lot closer than I originally expected, in fairness to her. But when you look at the fundraising and the polling data, it's pretty good for Sharice Davids, and that's why I think she's going to win here. So as you can see, Davids has 3.4 million, almost 3.5 million cash on hand. Amanda Adkins, her opponent, has about 1.5 million cash on hand, so she has a big cash on hand advantage. And I think having Laura Kelly likely to outspend whoever her Republican opponent is statewide, that's going to help her kind of just boost Democratic turnout in the city of Kansas City itself. And also you have to remember is she'll probably be getting some level of crossover appeal in the suburbs of Kansas City. And additionally, when you look at the polls, we've only done one poll, but it does show her within 1 point of Amanda Adkins. This is back from July by a more Republican-leaning pollster. Again, this is a doesn't market, but this is a poll that has consistently overestimated Republicans in the past. I've worked for Republican campaigns, and I believe I wouldn't be surprised if this is a poll that Adkins or her campaign was somewhat behind to show a lead here. But the fact that David's only down by a point in this poll, just very, very good for Amanda Adkins, for her. And again, if Adkins, I wouldn't be surprised if Adkins gets more than 46% of the vote, but it's just the fact that this is a Republican poll and she can only get 46% of the vote, not a good look for her. So yeah, this is a toss-up seat. I could see it going either way, but for now, I'm pretty much, I'm pretty clearly on the train of Sharice Davids winning re-election. She has a lot of money. She's in a left-running seat. She won in 2020 and 2018 by pretty impressive margins, and the seat is just, I keep saying it, but it's just such a good seat for Democrats long term that I have a hard time seeing how Adkins can reverse the bleeding down ballot, especially in a year where the Dobbs decision just happened. So this is a seat that I think is still Democratic. Again, I know I laid out the case for the Democrats a lot in this video, but it's no landslide. And if Amanda Adkins wins, I will not be surprised. But to me, Sharice Davids is the favorite as of right now. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed, please leave a like. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tell me what you think about this race. Tell me, do you think Adkins is going to beat Davids, or do you think Davids will hold the seat for the Democrats? So thanks for watching. I'll see you all next one. Bye, guys.